Hi YouTubers. Looks like I'll be chit-chatting with you for a little while now about my early days. My mother had two brothers and one sister living on a farm in the lower peninsula of Michigan, about 20 miles inland from Lake Michigan. And this was before World War I, of course. My dad came along, part of a harvesting crew, moving from state to state with their harvesting equipment, which the farmers themselves couldn't afford to own. And Dad fell in love with the farmer's daughter and married her. That was my mother. I grew up around a lot of animals on a farm. My grandmother kept, for instance, chickens to produce eggs that could be sold in the nearest town. That was good family income. We had cows, plenty of cows, and milk and cream could also be sold in town. And we made our own butter, churned the butter. And those good income producing things. My sister and I loved the farm animals, and the little ones. Nellie was a good horse. She liked us kids and we liked her, and in due course she had a little colt. And that little colt was, while he was nursing, she couldn't be put out to work. She had to stay in the farmyard. And so one day, they decided it was time to put Nellie back to work. And they were going to leave the colt in the barnyard. Well, he was furious at being separated from his mother, and the gate had not been well locked. So he managed to get it out. In the meantime, from the farmhouse, my older sister Maren had gone down to the mailbox to get the mail. The mailman had come by in his horse and buggy and had dropped some mail in. So she was down there to get the mail, and she hears this pounding of hoofs coming in her direction. She turns around and here's little Rocky, the colt, tearing up after his mother, who's up the road beyond Maren. And she, trying to get out of his way, tripped and fell, and he stepped over and stepped on her, on her chest. And they were afraid she was hurt, but she wasn't. He was going too fast and furious. But he knew that he had hurt one of his playmates, my sister, and he stopped and turned around and nuzzled her, and then went tearing up the road after his mother. That was a cute thing for him to have done. While I was living at home, there was only 10 grades of school available to me, and it was all in one room. And some of the grades would have no pupils at all. There was one teacher. I remember her, Mrs. Comfort. She was a very nice lady. So in order to go beyond the 10th grade, my folks had to arrange for me to leave home and live with somebody else. I lived with the doctor that had brought us kids into the world. The two families were good friends, the Lokens and the Spencers. And I went to live with the Spencers. They had 8 kids of their own, and I made number 9. And they had a son, James Spencer, who was just 2 months older than I was, and we were pretty good buddies. His folks thought I would be a good influence on him. I was a good student. He was a good athlete. I was no athlete. I graduated from high school in 1929, and I wanted to go to college. I knew that I could work my way somehow, and the one that would be least expensive to me was Michigan Agricultural College down at Lansing, Michigan. So I immediately hitchhiked from the high school area, living with the Spencers, down to Lansing. And I got myself a couple of jobs, one in a restaurant, and that took care of my meals, plus a little extra spending money. And the rest was odd jobs. Well, that went okay. I got started in college. And almost immediately after that came the stock market crash of 1929, and all my hopes and aspirations went out the window. Well, what am I going to do now? I managed to get through that year, but there was no jobs of any kind available the next year, for the next school year. I'd be darned if I wanted to go back to the rural area where I'd been raised as a kid, and that was even worse.